It's a good evening from Radio FM88 Australia, and we're broadcasting remotely and not in the studios tonight. And of course, whilst it's an evening in Queensland on the east coast of Australia, it's a morning in the UK. And I'm going to hand you over to Andrena, our co-host, to give you the introductions and the welcome to our guest.
Hi, everybody. Welcome and good morning, good day, wherever you are in the world. Today, it's the 11th of May, swiftly moving through the weeks, the days and the months now, flip. Anyway, it's my great pleasure to have on the show Tricia McCormick, who is in Queensland. I've never met Trish in person, but I know Jeff has. Trish is trained in many modalities, but we're going to talk mostly about her herbal essences and tinctures, looking at the spiritual and emotional and all sorts of other things. So with a great pleasure, welcome, and thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
It's our pleasure. So where would you like to start with where you were born? And I know you've done Reiki, counselling, colour and all sorts of things. So would you like to share the steps along the way that have brought you to this point now here today?
Okay. So I was born in a country town called Lancefield, which is in Victoria, in a bush nursery. And I don't think the town has changed size at all since I was born there. And I suppose I've been reflecting during the week about my journey. And we grew up a lot we lived in the country. Dad was a hunter, so we're always out bush. So I was always I was more of a tomboy. So I'd love climbing trees and things like that. But what got me into herbs was my daughter was 18 months old and kept getting middle ear infections. And I'd go to the doctors and he'd put her on antibiotics. And I just went, no, there has to be another way. So I started to do a course called Home Herbal Remedies. And so then I started to work. That's how we worked. There was no more going to the doctor. And for a middle ear infection, we used to use onions. So I'd heat the onion up in the oven, put it in a brown paper bag, and then squeeze the juice out and put it in the ears. So that's
Really?
how I started. Yeah. So I started with that, and that sort of started, I felt like I had a connection with plants. Like I'd get bit by a bee and then I'd walk past the lavender and I'd grab all the lavender heads off and I'd, put oil with them and I'd put it on the bite and the sting, and I found that it would just take the pain out. And so I had this connection, and then what I do, I'd have this connection and then I'd research it afterwards and I'd go, oh, so that makes sense. Lavender's good for burns, bites, stings. And I don't know, I think Alicia started, that's my daughter. So she was 18 months old, now she's 40. So I've been working with herbs since then. Then I started to go to yoga, and my yoga teacher said to me, Tricia, have you thought about being a yoga teacher? And I went, I'm the student that hides up the back. She said, no, I think, you hold the postures beautifully. I think, teaching would be good. I still thank her to this day. That was a gift, a total gift. So I travelled down to Melbourne and I studied for 12 months Hatha yoga. And when I started doing my essays, they were like lucky if they were a paragraph long. By the end of the 12 months, they were pages long. And that really started. Then I found I had a hunger for more knowledge. Had some amazing experiences in yoga, getting into deep meditative states and getting guidance. And then my teacher ended up with lymphatic cancer. And she said, Tricia, will you take my class over? I hadn't even finished my teaching course. So I started teaching her classes, and then I went back and I studied esoteric meditation and the chakras. I did that for another 10 months, and that started to get me in touch with colour, with the centres. But in that time also, I started counselling for Lifeline. I started on the phones. Then I became their facilitator for the course, and so I counselled for them for 7 years, and that's when I started to see that body-mind connection. And I was on the phones, and when you're on the phones, you need to tune in even deeper to people because you don't have that visual. And I was finding people didn't know what they were feeling. They were saying, I feel this, but they didn't know where that feeling sat in their body. So I started to connect all that together. And then I think in that time I went to a confest, and while I was at the confest, there was all these people with massage tables, and I was drawn to one person. So eventually I had to wait, and I got on the table, and he was doing Reiki, and at that time I didn't even know what it was. And I got on the table and I had an amazing experience. And then I found one of the counsellors at Lifeline also did Reiki, so I had a healing with her. And then Barbara McGregor, she was, I don't know if she owned the Wellbeing magazine. She was a Reiki Master, so I did my Reiki with her. And while I was also doing Reiki, I was studying massage, so I became a massage therapist. So I was able to work more on people's bodies and connect them to that body-mind connection. Then I started also studying herbal medicine, did kinesiology. That was 250 hours you needed to become a practitioner. So that was about 2.5 years. What else did I do in that time? Oh, then I started teaching at adult education. So I was taking yoga, meditation, Reiki, all of those into adult education. And once I started teaching Reiki, I opened a clinic so the people that were learning could build their confidence, and we offered it to the community for a gold coin donation. But if anybody wanted deeper work, they had to go see a practitioner. So that ran for quite some time. Until I moved. What else did I do then? Some of this may not be in order. Also taught the tarot one weekend, and while I was teaching it, I think the first day we said at the end of the night, okay, let's do a 3-card spread. And I got everybody to sleep on their cards to see what came through in their dream state. I slept on my cards also, and I got a name of a town came through. I had no idea where that town was. And when I found it, it was inland from Port Macquarie. It was Beachmont. And I had an opportunity to go there, and I went to Beachmont, and I went, oh my God, why would Spirit send me here? You know, I was just horrified. It was just like a little old town, and, you know, it had a mailbox and a general store, had a hotel that had wooden floorboards that were no longer polished, and I just went, oh, I can't work this out. Anyway, I trusted my guidance, and I kept getting more and more guidance. It was time to move. So I ended up moving up inland from Port Macquarie, and I remember one day waking up and saying to Spirit, why did you send me here? You know, I was really questioning, and I went for a drive up to Comboyne, which was up in the mountains. And that day, as I was driving around every bend, there was cows around every bend. I'd had a vision probably 12 months, 18 months beforehand of me flying, and every time I went around a bend there was more cows. So Spirit obviously knew that I was going to doubt, why did they send me? So that was sort of confirming you're in the right place. So I surrendered and eventually went into the adult education and just knocked on their door, and I said, look, I teach this, and this. And they went, fantastic. We just asked for some fresh blood, and here you are. So then I started teaching.
Say no more.
Sorry?
Say no more.
Yeah. So then I started teaching. That was actually in Laurelton, and then in Port Macquarie, Camden Haven. So I ended up teaching through adult education, and there was eventually I said, I need to start going to meditation. I need to start going and meeting other people. And I walked into this meditation in Warhope, and the lady said, I've been waiting to meet you, and did you find Warhope? And I thought, whoa. She'd seen my name on all the groups I'd been running and all the courses. And anyway, we become really great friends. She ended up teaching me Orasoma, and I think I did the first level, and then she asked me, would I do all the expos? You're not meant to do the expos that early off. So we started doing the expos together, and I did my further training with her. And so it was probably another 10 years later that I was repeating that story, and then I realised why Spirit sent me there. It was to meet her, to do Orasoma, to deepen even my colour therapy. And I went, oh, now I get it. But it took me that long. So I work with it in a different way than we were taught to work with it. So I just got creative with that. So then in Port Macquarie, I used to teach prenatal yoga for the mums. What else did I do there? I ran cancer support groups. I taught yoga and meditation for the youth, and I found that to be so beneficial. The students would come out and share their experiences, and I said, it'd be really wise if you kept this up, because if you keep it up, you'll be such resilient adults, you know what I mean? They were so in touch with that guidance, and so I really feel it's beneficial for youth to get into that earlier before, possibly before adulthood, I also recently worked for mental health for 13 years, so I've seen the end result of being caught in a system, not having that resilience, not having a connection, with a higher source. And I feel if we could work with the younger ones, they may not end up in a system. They may not. They'll build the resilience. They'll have the skills and understanding that they probably won't go down that path. Well, that's what I hope anyway. So from Port Macquarie, then I got guidance again. It was time to move, and I follow my guidance, because if I'm working with somebody and they get guidance, if I don't stand in my own integrity, it's going to be hard to support them to, follow their guidance. So then when I came up here, I started teaching meditation in mental health. That was one of the longest running programs that company had. So I think that spoke for itself. I also took in Reiki, colour therapy. I'd often close my office door because everybody knew what I did, and I'd work with everybody in a different manner. Also went to Tasmania probably 7-8 years ago, spent a whole week on a farm down there where we picked herbs, we made salves, we made oils, we made medicines. So that was lovely to be immersed in that. And also with the herbs on the drying racks. That was such a pretty picture. So then after that, I started making more salves. I started making more flower essences. I did go through the channels of manufactured herbs. That was convenient for a long time, but now I like the deeper connection with the herbs. I like to be with the plant. I like to feel the plant. I like to see what messages the plants have. So not just so much what we believe is therapeutic, but getting guidance from the plant itself. I love foraging. I love going out and finding what's in the local area, because there's a way Mother Nature always puts what we need wherever we live, whatever environment we're in. And I've experienced that everywhere I've moved to too. So when I talk about herbs, I wrote down a list because people just go, oh, herbs. So when I talk about herbs, I talk about the leaves, the flowers, the seeds, the roots, the oils, the bark, the whole plant. Then we can talk tablets, capsules, oils, teas, liquids, ointments, fresh, dried, tinctures, essences, poultices, vinegars. So there's, when we say the word herbs, there's quite a lot involved. Yeah. And the other night, as I came out of meditation and I was thinking about this presentation, these words came to me, and I love them. As you journey into nature and the nature of things, you also journey into your own nature. It's the journey to truth. Nature is the only truth. So human nature, our own human nature, and Mother Nature is the only truth, I feel.
Powerful.
Yeah. So it's about having that relationship with the plants. And I think, that's working with manufactured herbs, you don't have that same relationship. You don't have that connection. You don't have that connection with the earth.
So when we talk about the nettles, I know you mentioned them, and I mean there's nettles everywhere over here, especially the amount of rain we've had. And like I said, I love making nettle tea. And I got my little rubber gloves on and my scissors and a carrier bag. And so somebody said to cut off the top 4 leaves, so I always just snip the tops, but I always ask permission first.
Yes.
Nutty or what?
Yeah.
So I go snipping along and doing thank gratitude, and then obviously, so I haven't at this moment done anything else with that nettles, and I know somebody said it makes excuse me, a great nettle soup and things like that, which so what else would you say to do with the humble nettle, which is everywhere?
Okay. Yeah, well, like you just said, to respect that plant and ask permission if you're going to cut it, and then the plant can do what it needs. It'll either withdraw, things from the petals and take it into the stem or into the roots. But with nettle soup, definitely. My mum has a lot of nettles in her yard, and I remember as a child running through the paddocks and always getting stung with them. So you can make pesto because what the nettles supply, if you have it in pesto, you can put it in your smoothies, you can put it in your soup, you can freeze them. So they're the main things, but the energy around nettles, there is actually associated to Mars. So it's associated to the planet Mars. That's why, that sting, that bite, so it's like that Mars energy. Often you'll find also growing not far away from stinging nettles will be dock. Do you have dock there? It's like a long leg. And they'll take the sting out straight away. So you'll find them sort of like close by. But nettle used to be, the fibre was used to make clothing. So that's how strong nettle is, right? It's durable and it has a lot of strength. So even to drink it, it is building strength within you. It's building that Mars energy up, so you can become that inner warrior and move through the painful experiences in life. So the plant's telling you already. The sting, the pain. So to drink that can help people move through, or take the essences for that, and then there's the growth and the change will come. So it strengthens the emotions and supports us in making change.
And that's perfect for me at this moment in time then.
There you go. So you've been drawn to it for another reason, haven't you? Not just yeah. So,
and I was involved in a little mishap not long ago, and I've been suffering with, I've been suffering with a lot of pain, and I went to the gym yesterday because the chiropractor said, right, start back with this and this. Flip, was I sore last night? God. Anyway, so I think I will up my nettle tea.
Yes. And nettle also.
How's it? Hey, you guys in England, you got nettles everywhere. You don't really see nettles in Queensland. So when you talked about nettles when your mum, obviously that's in Victoria. Where do you get nettles in Queensland, if anything?
Okay. I've got some seeds coming up. My girlfriend's sending me some seeds up, so I'll have seeds. You can buy them. I've just researched recently from the Mud Brick Cottage, $6.50 for a little plant. That Mud Brick Cottage out the back of Mudgeeraba? They have some. Often you find them around chook yards. So, New South Wales, chook yards, you often find stinging nettles. But, I haven't seen as many like I did as a child at all.
Well, you should see them here. I could send you a job lot.
So if you're going to get stinging nettles, you also need to get the dock as well.
No, you don't need to. It's just if you get stung, dock will take that sting out. But dock's so beneficial too. I just love seeing dock in the paddocks, and then I'll cut the dock off and I'll put it in a salad or I'll steam it. Just so beneficial therapeutically also. But coming back to nettle's so good for the blood, so blood's about joy, getting, so sometimes some of the herbs, if we look a bit deeper, if there's no joy in your life, we're going to have, the blood's not going to be at good quality. So, there might be issues with the blood. And often sometimes if there's issues with the blood, that's when we come up with dermatitis, eczema, things like that. So you can see how that's prickly and how that prickly plant can sort of heal that, gets in, cleans the blood, cleans the skin. But I won't go too much into that. But I'd like to, if we could, have a look at that echinacea picture and that you've got there, Jeff. And me working with the Herbal Tarot. So that's marigolds, that's calendula. So the echinacea.
I love marigolds.
You love marigolds?
Yeah, so we have them here. They're wild, and but they're so bright orange everywhere. It's just, it's just lovely.
And
Sorry,
even as you talk, even as you're talking about it, did you feel your spirit lift? Because that's exactly what they do.
Funny, isn't it?
Well, we can start with them anyway. But marigolds also, as well as echinacea, are from the daisy family. So calendula once again comes back. It's the fire energy. It's that Mars energy again, and it stimulates the solar plex and the brow center, and it brings in that sun energy. Like you just said, when you said they're everywhere in the color, you could just feel that happiness and that joy,
Yeah.
Just looking and thinking about a plant that does that and makes you feel like that. Can you imagine taking the essence or taking, that's actually what I'm drinking at the moment. That's the tea I'm drinking at the moment is calendula tea. So, yeah, great therapeutically too. It supports us in moving forward. So following the sun and following your instincts improves the spirit, especially if someone's been sad or depressed. I think they're such a beautiful flower. So you can eat their petals. You can eat them dried. You can have them dried. You can have them fresh. So with this day and age, we've got dehydrators. It sort of makes that job a little bit easier. I like to dry everything naturally if I can, but if it's too damp, and there's mold going to get into them, I will have to use a dehydrator. But to make tinctures, you just get 80% or 100% alcohol, and you fill a jar and you pour the alcohol over it very slowly and gently so it covers all the herbs. You shake them regular. Sometimes I like to work with the moon cycle, and sometimes I forget, so it could be longer. I always date the lid in case I take the lids off. I always date the lid and what it is, and I also put a label on it. So I remember which lid goes with which plant.
Yeah.
So that, because, if you're taking them all off, it can get mixed up. So you step into empowerment with these, that they're just, I suppose if you could see the middle of the flower there, it's like that solar plex energy. So it's, lovely way to work with plants. And then when you have that connection with them, even just to sit and meditate with them, you're still bringing in that energy. But sort of to take it in, to get it into the organs, the glands, and down to a cellular level, it's even more powerful. What else? So, yep.
I was going to like, I used to have marigolds in the garden in abundance because they just grow everywhere. So I always took the seeds, and when I used to go walking down the woods, I'd always scatter them, to let them grow, especially for nature or the insects and what have you. What was I going to say? Something about the... Oh, I know. What's the other one? Nasturtiums.
Yes.
Now I can go and pick loads of those leaves and munch away. I absolutely love nasturtiums.
Yeah, they've got a nice mustardy, warmy flavour. Yeah, so do I. Yeah.
Anyway, carry on. Sorry.
and the same colour flowers nearly.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, because they're red and orange, aren't they? And I think there's a few yellow. I'm not sure, but I know when I was in Oz and I used to go out with my friend Katrina, and they were wild, and I said, "Oh, stop! I got to get some of these." And I'd be munching away. Yeah, so I don't think they're out just yet, but I'll have to look out for them. Yeah,
beautiful. Yes, so great for trauma, alleviating pain on that emotional level. Fans our inner fires and helps battle us with any form of stagnation. Oh, there's echinacea. Just looking at this plant, sometimes I can't take it all in, it's just, so when I look at this, first thing I see is that cone, right? And that reminds me of the crown chakra, like that 1,000-petal lotus, you know. So I feel that stimulates the crown chakra. I also see that those little bits coming out because echinacea protects the immune system. So I'm seeing those going out. It's like if we're having echinacea as an essence or drops, it's putting up a protection if we're being attacked from external environment. But also I find a lot of people can attack themselves with their inner thoughts. So echinacea is good to stop, because if we're under attack, it's going to affect the immune system. So even our thoughts, if we're attacking ourselves with our thoughts, it affects the immune system. So I love meditating on this flower. And then the leaves, you can also get a white one too, white echinacea. So the echinacea is about the rising sun. So it's like the sun coming up. So when you look at that flower also, it's sort of the yellowness is the rising sun. So there's a new day dawning, the divine light. It builds inner protection against harmful outside influences, supports us in meeting life's inner strengths. I look at that plant and I see strengths. I believe it stimulates the brow and the crown chakra. Once again, a member of the daisy family. And when you take echinacea, it has a tingling, prickling sensation in your mouth, just like the picture there. So, echinacea is so good for protection and defending yourself. I find some people, their immune is down because they're negative self-talk.
Self-chatter.
And they're attacking themselves. So that's echinacea. Lovely. What have we got next? Garlic.
Your garlic.
This is left. This is probably 2 years old. This is what I've got left. It was garlic honey. So I get the garlic cloves, I peel them, and then I cover them in honey, and it ferments. And this is what colour it goes. So on a daily basis, you could have a clove of garlic and the honey, great for the respiratory system, great for the throat, and preparing, especially us in Australia now, for the winter, getting that immune strong.
Your winters like our summers.
Yes. Aren't we blessed?
Aren't you just? Going back to the garlic, do you fill it up like halfway with lots of garlics and then half of honey, sort of?
No, because you'll find the garlic will float. So you pack it as tight as you can, as high as you can, then you pour the honey over. First few days you may need to take the lid off because of the fermentation process. It bubbles up. So I always put it on a saucer for the first week or so. Then after that, the fermentation stopped. And so you fill it as high as you possibly can, and then the honey over the top. Otherwise, you have this floating thing.
I'll have to try that one. I've got lemon, garlic, and honey, and I've got a big jar where I chopped it all up. And so I have some of that. Not every day, but most days, just to keep me going. But and I think more and more people are looking back to the natural ways, because we know all the chemists and drug shops and all of that, it's not for your highest good. It doesn't address the cause, does it? They don't say, like blood pressure, they'll give you a tablet, but they don't say, well, what's going on in your life? What's bubbling underway? What's the pressure building up?
That's
it's about time people started
making your blood boil.
Yeah, exactly. It's about time the doctors and all of that sort of went a bit deeper, but then I know they're not trained. I mean, some are, but they're not trained in looking at the emotions, are they?
No. But that body-mind connection, we're so connected with it, so connected. Talking about blood pressure, garlic is one of the best ones for low or high blood pressure. Depending, when we talk about blood pressure, what's causing the blood pressure though? Is it mental? Is it emotional? Is it, blocked valves? So, you can't, one herb doesn't fit all when you get the whole story. But in the herbal tarot, garlic is the tower. So when we take garlic, that can be quite offensive to other people, you know what I mean, the smell. So, like, when you're going through the tower experience, it's sort of like you can feel like you're isolated. You feel like you're going on a journey by yourself. So the garlic helps break down our defenses, our outmodeled ideas, the ego. Once again, it's ruled by Mars. It's interesting that I'm an Aries, but I've chose all these Mars ones. So it cuts through garlic will cut through most of your blockages. Where am I? Most of your blockages, as in the tower, that's what we need to be doing. We need to be breaking down those barriers. I'm having trouble with the tower. So yeah, the outdated things or the walls we've put up within ourselves. So as you go through the tower experience, you may find people turn their backs. The social outcasts, like the odor of the garlic, it's not socially acceptable. So garlic helps us with breakthroughs. It's protective. And like they used to use it to keep vampires away. Have you seen any vampires lately?
No, I can't say I have.
It must have worked. Yes.
Oh, God. I'll be Andrena no mates with the garlic I take.
So if you took it in drops and things like that, so it'll help you through any tower experience, which is fantastic, so it breaks down all those aspects and also breaks down whatever's on your chest anyway. Yeah. And what else have we got there? I think we've got...
before you move on, what about white garlic? Because you can get wild garlic, and you can go and snip all the leaves. And I mean, I've gone past and snipped a lot, and the smell and it's like pungent, but not very pungent, is it?
Yeah, it's different. And the cloves are bigger, aren't they? They're larger. They're much larger, the cloves. Yeah. Yeah, my mum grows that, and I love it. I haven't had some for a while. But it'd be the same. You could use the wild one. Yeah. Okay, Jeff, I think we've got, what have we got next?
Passion flower.
Yeah. Have a look at this. I mean,
it's a work of art,
isn't it? It's just like sometimes I'm just in total awe of that, like the same with echinacea and that. I just look at the plant or the flower and I'm just like, I can't take it all in. It's so beautiful. So
it's like a spirit, isn't it?
It is. It certainly is. Certainly is. And apparently, even there's 5 of those, they all represent different things. Then there's 3. It goes actually quite back to the Bible. But in the herbal tarot, it is the 2 of Swords. And what have I got down here? So it pacifies the spirit. You can see there she's got the swords crossed over her heart. She's blindfolded. So it is about pacifying, going within. I'm getting dizzy. Calms the heart. Calms the heart. sense of peace and balance. So when we're in the Two of Swords, that's what we're needing, peace and balance. What else do I? So meditating on the flower brings a focus cord to the heart and mind, and through the heart's path, more balance is created, greater capacity for love, even a wider circle of life. So the essence helps us soften and open up to love, especially if you've been withdrawn. And you can sort of see, even in that card, she's, the swords are across her heart, so she's protecting her heart. So that's where the essence would help open up that heart again. Also very beneficial, like we were just talking about the mind, for that circular thinking. So that thinking, and then people can't sleep at night time. So taking the essences there sort of supports that. Also opens up the throat center. So starting to take more responsibility for self. So that's a lovely, lovely flower and a lovely essence to take, and lovely herbs to take.
So how many essences have you made, or tinctures?
It depends. I couldn't keep count. Yeah, I don't have a number. But what I generally attempt to do is make the tinctures or the essences depending what's in season at the moment. So I've got it for the next, the coming months or whatever. Like we're coming up to winter, so I'll be, I'm receiving some licorice, I'm receiving some mullein, and some other herbs from a friend's property. I like to source them from at least where I know they're from. And then I can make the tinctures, I can make essences. With mullein, you can smoke that, and it's really good for the lungs. And apparently you can also smoke the licorice. Licorice is also good for the adrenals, for the lungs, for breaking up the congestion on the lungs. It just softens all of that.
So is that a licorice plant?
Licorice root. You get the licorice root.
Oh, yeah. And what was the other one you said? Beginning with M?
Mullein. Yeah. Mullein's like a big long leaf. It sort of looks similar. Do you remember lamb's ears? Those little plants. Similar to that, but a larger scale. So really good for the lungs, even to smoke it. Even though you might have a lung complaint, smoking the mullein and smoking the licorice helps open up those airways.
So for a beginner to make a tincture or something, I mean, I've never yet dabbled with any tinctures or anything. So where would you start? Like obviously, is it like getting obviously wash, like just say if we're using nettle, for example, I don't think you do use nettle tincture. Would you wash it? Wash it and then put it in a jar, and then you put, was it 80%?
80%, 100% alcohol. Yeah. So wash it. Make sure you wash it with, not chlorinated water. You can have a colander. You know what I mean? To shake it. You don't want it to soak it too long or wash it too long, because you don't want to lose all the nutrition and the values out of it. So you just sort of rinse it off so there's no bugs or dust. Yep. Then you can cut it up so it fits into a jar. What I suggest, for me, hands-on is the best way to learn. So you learn through experience. So with that, you can dry some and see how it turns out dried, and then do your tincture. You can also use it, like you just said, fresh, and see how it works out, and maybe do them both at the same time and make that comparison, to see what the colour's like, what the taste is like. I like to steer clear of alcohol these days. A lot of people are very sensitive to it. You can do dropper form, and by the time you put it in warm water, in about 20 minutes, the alcohol's evaporated anyway. But
Right.
people that are still sensitive don't like the fact of that. I started to work with homeobotanicals, and homeobotanicals are herbs brought down to a homeopathic balance, brought right down to a minute balance. Whereas with herbs, they work on your organs and glands. Homeobotanicals will work at a cellular level. And okay, we're just talking about colds. So with a homobotanical, in one drop, you would get, this is for coughs and colds, you would get bone set, you would get elderflower, you would get fenugreek, you would get goldenrod, golden seal, ribwort, thyme, white horehound, and yarrow in a little dropper bottle. Now that's just, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 herbs.
Wow.
To have 11 herbs in a liquid formula, you wouldn't do it. So with homeobotanicals, I can have those 11 herbs and then check out, it may have been caused through emotion. So then I'd put an emotional blend in, which have another 11 herbs, and then something else. So you'd probably have 33 herbs in a 25 ml bottle. You'd take 3 drops, maybe 3 times a day, compared to herbs in a tincture where you need to take 5 mils 5 times a day. So homeobotanicals, I find, work lovely because they're low dosage. Anybody can take them. Children will take them. I find adults don't want to take herbs 5 mils 3 times a day. And the other thing with homeobotanicals, you can work with our best friends.
Oh, that's nice.
Animals. Yeah. So often I find with animals, they will take on their owner's conditions.
Yeah.
So you're really, while you're working with the animal, you're working with the owner too. So often animals will, you could say to the owner, oh, have you been experiencing this? And you'll know the animal's taken that on. So it's a lovely way to work with animals therapeutically too. And it's the same manner. You have so many herbs. Yeah, so it's quite a powerful but subtle way to work.
And I think now you online you see herb courses, and there's so much, and they're all free courses now. There's so much out there for people to join and learn more and more. And I think again, it's about going back to the old ways, remembering what our ancestors used to do. And
I say going forward to the old ways. Going forward to the old ways. Yeah.
Definitely, bringing it back, into alignment now. But I saw Jocelyn.
The test of time. Yep, sorry.
Jocelyn put up about what's good for kidneys. She's come out of hospital. I have a kidney stone. My anger lump, annoying brother. Say no more. So, what would you recommend?
I don't want to go down that path because I need to speak to the individual. I'd need to know what's going on for them mentally, emotionally, physically, environmentally. There's not just one.
Yeah, of course, I understand.
If someone came to me, what I also do, I use the cards. I use aromatherapy. I do aromatic kinesiology. That tells me a bit more story about them. I also, like I said, work with the bottles. That tells me more of a story about them. So then I'd have them on the table. We'd have the oils going, and that's already peeled away many layers. Then with the bottles, I put the bottle on, and then I do the work through the bottle. So that even goes even deeper into the patterning, the programming, because often it's pattern and programming that's caused a lot of these emotional. So to recommend one herb, it just doesn't doesn't cut it, because it's more the patterning and the programming that's caused that. Then I can supplement with herbs or with home botanicals. Yeah. So
why do people buy tinctures?
Sorry.
Why do people go for the tinctures? Or what's the potency of that as opposed to a tea?
Well, tea, you have to drink a whole lot of tea to have a therapeutic dose. So to have like a therapeutic dose, you probably need 8 tea bags. You know what I mean? And no one's going to drink 25 tea bags in a day, to get their therapeutic dose. So tea's great to have. I mean, especially when it's winter, I just have a plunger all the time and I just keep topping it up. And I know, I'm getting the benefits from it. But yeah, when we have ailments and conditions, you need to have the home botanicals, you need to have the tinctures, you need to get in, because then the herbs know their job and the body knows their job, so they work together very well. Does that answer that question?
Oh, no, I was just thinking, is the tea really helping the kidneys and your bladder by just having a bit of a clean out, as opposed to having the tinctures, which is a more a stronger dose it's going to get put into the bloodstream? Is that how it works?
Yes, it will be a stronger dose. Yeah, definitely having a little, and sometimes that's how we need to be. We need to do it very, very gently. Herbs can be, if you take too much, can put you through a healing crisis. So, I mean, it's always go to a professional, get prescribed by, do not just do your own research. Unless, you're just picking a plant and you're putting it in your food, or you're having a cup of tea. That's going to be harmless compared to you making a tincture and going, okay, I've got this. It could be totally the wrong herb, even though it is maybe a kidney herb or something like that. That may not be what that individual's needing. Because everybody with kidney stones or whatever, you can have 10 people, but they'd have 10 different herbs. But yeah, having tea would be of no harm. Yes, it will be supportive, but you certainly won't get the benefits like you would with the tincture or the home botanicals.
Okay, so if we were to talk about one particular product, just say it was garlic, for example.
Yep.
And in Australia here, we either get the local garlic or we get the fully imported garlic. So obviously, when we're getting imported product that's been grown in another country, which is grown in a different pH soil and a different composition.
And probably sprayed.
Or rained on.
All right, so the question is that you're now dealing with a different frequency, a different vibration of herb. Am I correct in saying that you should really be going more for the local?
Most definitely. I believe this is the way we're all going now, to support one another. Everybody grows a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and then we can swap it over. We can trade it. We can, so local, shop locally, definitely. So we know what we're getting. Get to know the grower, where the food's sourced from, what kind of person they are, it's like, and then we put it in our body. It is important. Yeah. It's
so take it to another level. To take it to another level. When I used to travel to the UK, I would fly from East Coast Australia and travel following the sun, and eventually arrive at Heathrow just as the dawn breaks for a new day in the UK. And I'd be straight in, and I could go the whole distance on that day. But if I flew back from UK and come back the same way across the Indian Ocean back into Australia,
Mm.
I would be absolutely
Smashed.
smashed. Exactly. Oh, that's a nice word to say. And it was and it take a while to come together. But I remember being in the UK at the healing weekend, and a gentleman said, "Your issue is a magnetic field issue." And he told me to lay down on the grass, which I did. And I faced north, yeah. And even then, when he was telling me to face north, it was really strange because my head was facing south. But as far as I was concerned, I was facing north. And that's when he said, "There's your magnetic field," because your whole attitude is to the fact that when you're in the southern hemisphere, you face the sun, which travels around the equator. So that's why you're completely, your whole left brain, right brain, and the whole body is not gelling, because you got this perception that you're looking to the sun, which is in the equator. So you're looking north. But here in the UK, you got to look south in order to follow the sun. So for us, when I say put your head down and face north, it's completely out of your whole consciousness. You're really, to you're facing south, but it's just the dichotomy of the magnetic field. And so when I understood what he was talking about, he then put magnets on my shoulder, on my hips, and on my ankles. And in a very short space of time, I was brought back into alignment for the Northern Hemisphere. So the great analogy, of course, is that in the UK there, if you get Andrena to put some water in the sink and then pull the plug, you know how the water will vortex in a different clockwise, anti-clockwise, as opposed to us in the Southern Hemisphere. So where I'm going with our whole body is fluxed to a magnetic field to the north or to the south. So if you're getting, and this is my point, if you're getting tinctures or you're getting herbs and that stuff from the Northern Hemisphere, surely their magnetic field is completely different to those for us in the Southern Hemisphere. Hence another story of why buying locally, because it's in the same magnetic field as us.
Yep.
That's a short of the conversation.
Yeah. I'm glad you weren't going to test me on north and south, because I don't know my left, right, north, south, or anything. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I feel strongly there's so many herbs that have been imported from other places. So, yeah, start growing locally, start supporting one another, yeah.
Yeah, look, we do get drawn to different things. You have a spate of doing this, and you just got to accept that your body's saying, right, today I want more nettles, or I want dandelions. When you say about freezing them, obviously they need to be fresh, and so just put them in a plastic bag and then in the freezer and bring them out within
Well, you could lightly steam them, because I especially nettle, you know what I mean? Once you've frozen them, they're not going to come out like you put them in, are they? So I just lightly steam them or blanch them. So then you've kept all the nutrient in, and then you've locked it in when you freeze it. So then you'd be just putting them in smoothies or something like that, or your nettle soups. Even put fried rice, you know what I mean? Make your pesto. There's plenty of ways to get it in.
Yeah.
Now, we've had some really interesting guests like you, Trish. We've had some interesting guests like you, Trish. Particularly the lady who was taking photos of roses, and how the plants, or particularly in this case, all the roses would actually come to her and give her a download of attributes that each rose had. So
now, Sandra Humby. Sandra Humby. Sandra Humby.
Yep. Interesting surname, Humby, and she was working with roses.
Yeah, so and then we've had the other guy, Clive, who talked about, he was working with the Chelsea Flower Show for years, and then he'd come across the Glastonbury, but he was actually more aligned with the divas, wasn't
Yeah,
The
well,
actual
every plant has a diva. Yep, every plant. Yep, you can feel the spirit. You can sense it. That's why, to have that connection is really important. Yeah, there are plant divas, definitely. Oh, that wasn't your belly rumbling, was it?
No, all the sheep they've all been shorn there, and they're all waiting to get out now. So it's a lot of noise going on. Oh yeah. Oh no, it's been absolutely fascinating, and I really enjoyed it because obviously I would like to go, use more herbs, and I'm going up to Glastonbury for a change this weekend, and there's Star Child, but they do a lot of dried herbs in there, so I often go up and get something. So, I might go up and get some marigold leaves or something to go on with, get a taste of something different. So yeah, so I've got my different, you buy the sachet herb teas, but just they don't do anything for me. I like to sort of have my little pot, and there's just more flavor comes out, and there's more goodness in there. And it is about supporting your local farmers. I mean, there's more and more farm shops opening up in cafes where where you can get fresh from the farm, and where it's come from, and like you say, I mean, I've had, when I first came back over here, I used to love the mangoes in Australia. God, the mangoes I bought here were like green-eyed bullets. Honestly, I don't know where they came from. And then I thought, well, maybe if I try some frozen ones to see what they're like. And so obviously it's having produce from your own homeland, really, isn't it? Because you see some of the bananas and they come wrapped and they're green, and oh God, so it's very important to support your local people now more than ever. Yeah.
Yeah. Instead of the supermarkets, I mean, where you can buy, like you said, herbal teas in those tea bags, and we don't even know what that material's been made of. You can get some in silk, which are, much better for you.
Yeah.
But definitely if we can support other growers and, get different blends, that's the way to go. Yeah.
Of course,
having a choice.
One product that allows you to freeze you up as prunes, isn't it?
Does it, Jeff?
Yes, well, how can make Bill Harrison would come from the UK to Australia, and he is like, instead of getting the plumber and get the prunes and
castor oil for that.
Yes, yeah, you can rub that in your belly.
Castor oil in your belly button works a treat.
Yes, or you can soak your prunes and just drink the water. It has the same effect.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there you go.
Yeah. Anyway,
do we have to finish on that note?
Yeah, typical. Yeah.
Well, I wonder what musical note prunes are.
I'd say they'd be.
Oh, it's a big B flat.
Is that what it was?
Oh, right. Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to finish up with before we close today?
Nothing from me. I thank you.
No, well, thank you. You've been very enlightening. I've really enjoyed it, and and people can contact you.
Yes, that's another.
To get more advice or have a session or whatever. Yes. So it's been absolutely lovely. So thank you very much for being our guest of the show this week.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trish.
Thank you, Jeff.
Stay on.